We're discussing everything you need to know to be successful in each type of software engineering interview, and today we're going to be covering the online coding assessment. You can breathe a sigh of relief because there's no interviewer involved in an online coding assessment. But don't get too comfortable because it is a timed assessment. The purpose of an online coding assessment is to screen out candidates that aren't technically capable without wasting any of the company's engineers' time. And therefore, naturally, you see a lot of online coding assessment challenges from companies that are getting a lot of applications. Welcome to the big leagues. Some of the common platforms that administer these coding assessments online are HackerRank, Codility, CodeSignal, etc. If the company you applied to moves you to an online coding assessment round, the recruiter is going to be sending you a link to click on to start the online coding assessment. Usually this link will be active for about a week, but if you need more time, always feel free to reach out to the recruiter to extend your duration so that they can give you a fresh new link and you can buy yourself a bit more time if you need to prepare a bit more, or if some other matter comes up that prevents you from taking that interview within a 1 week window. These online coding assessments will last anywhere between 1 hour to 2 hours, and when you start, you cannot hit pause. So make sure before you actually start the coding assessment that you have an uninterrupted hour or so carved off dedicated to this interview. Usually these online coding assessments will come with a sample test that is intended to get you familiar with the interface of the online coding assessments IDE. Make sure you go through that sample test so you don't waste time getting familiar with how you have to run code, how you have to run tests, and what you need to do to submit your code when you're actually taking the online coding assessment. These online coding assessments will have various degrees of proctoring capabilities. For example, the environment may give you a warning where you're switching into a different tab, or the environment will give you a warning when it's sensed that you've pasted some code in. So make sure that you're able to conduct yourself in a professional manner. But for most coding assessments, it's perfectly fine for you to be Googling something or researching something online. Just be mindful of the time. But it is never okay to be pasting code directly into the IDE. That is a no-no. Now let's talk about what you need to be doing in order to succeed in these online coding assessments. Now it goes without saying that if you click that link and started that exam, you should have brushed up on your data structures and algorithms, and you should have practiced a fair amount of lead code problems to get comfortable with solving these kinds of problems. Your submission is going to be scored in two ways. Number one, and this is arguably the more important one, the code that you submit is going to be run through a series of tests, and depending on how many tests your code passes, you're going to be assigned a score. The second and less common scenario is where the engineer comes in and reviews the code that you've submitted, but this is on top of running your code through those automated tests. And more likely than not, the company is going to rely on the score that their automated testing system spits out for your submission. Typically, you have between 2 to 4 problems that are assigned to you for these interviews, and each of these problems may carry the same amount of weight, or some of these problems, the more difficult ones, may carry more weight. But you must remember to attempt all of these questions because you're going to be given a score based on how many tests pass for each of these questions. So if you're expected to solve 4 problems in 2 hours, make sure you commit about 30 minutes to each problem. So if you can't solve one problem in 30 minutes, put a pin in it, move on to the next question, and work on it for the next 30 minutes. And if you have some time left, after you've completed all the other problems, come back to this first problem and try to get after it again. Hope that was helpful. If you like this video, show your support by hitting that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button.